There are 5 sacred things you carry within, 5 truths, 5 fires, 5 fragile wings. And if you hand them out too freely, the world will not thank you for your honesty. It will test you, twist you, and sometimes try to turn you into someone you're not. We live in a world that loves oversharing, but beware, not everything holy is meant for public offering. Today, I'm going to share 5 things you must never share with anyone, and by the end of this, you'll know why your silence is sometimes the strongest form of power. Stay until the end, not for me, but for the protection of your peace. Because one careless confession can cost you years of healing. There is a sacredness to beginnings that most people do not understand. When a dream is born inside you, it does not come marching in with trumpets and spotlights. It whispers, it stirs, it stretches in the quiet of your soul like a baby learning to breathe. It doesn't yet have bones to stand or wings to fly. It has only the tremble of hope. That is not the time to tell the world. That is the time to listen deeper. That is the time to water it, tend to it, protect it like the hush of a morning before the sun breaks the sky. But too many speak too soon. They open their mouths before their hearts have fully formed the shape of the dream. They cast it out into hands that are not gentle, into minds that are not open, into spirits that are not nurturing. And what is fragile gets fractured. What is sacred becomes small. You must understand, when you share your dream too early, it becomes a guest at a table it was never invited to. And not everyone sitting there will want to see it flourish. Not everyone at that table has your joy in mind. Some will laugh, some will doubt. Some will disguise envy as advice, and some will pretend to support you just to stay close enough to sabotage your soil. Not because they are evil, but because they never learned how to believe in their own becoming. Your fire reminds them of the ashes they never rose from, and so they douse it with logic. They sprinkle it with mockery. They say, "That's not practical," or "People like us don't do things like that." They recite rules written by people who never tried. And if you are still tender in your belief, you will shrink. You will question yourself. You will delay your gift or bury it altogether, thinking maybe they were right. But hear me, they are not right. They simply cannot see what you see. They do not feel what pulses in your chest. Your dream is not a democracy. It does not require a vote of approval. It is a private contract between your soul and your purpose. When a seed is planted, it is buried alone. It does not shout to the forest, "I'm becoming a tree." It breaks in silence. It pushes through dirt unseen. The roots dig deep in the dark. That hidden work is not weakness. It is power building in stillness. If someone were to reach in and pull it up too soon just to check if it's growing, it would die. Your dream is the same. Let it be hidden for a while. Let it stretch in private. Let it grow in places no one can tamper with. There is no shame in being silent about what is sacred. In fact, there is wisdom. There is strength. There is a kind of dignity in privacy, not secrecy born from fear, but silence born from reverence. You are not withholding your truth. You are protecting its timing. You are not hiding your light. You are making sure the oil does not spill before the lamp is lit. And when it is time, when the roots are strong and the dream has risen from the soil with steady spine and full breath, then and only then do you reveal, not to boast, not to prove them wrong, but to honor what you built in the dark, to say, "I made it," not in spite of their doubt, but because of your faith. The silence you kept was not emptiness, it was the sound of something holy preparing to emerge. So let them talk about their plans while you build yours in peace. Let them mock what they do not understand while you master what they cannot see. Let them be loud. You be grounded. Let them run ahead. You go deep, because when you finally rise, you won't need to announce yourself. Your fruit will speak, your impact will echo, your presence will be proof, and those who doubted will say, "I didn't see that coming," and you'll smile, not with bitterness, but with grace, because you'll know that the roots you grew in silence were always stronger than the noise they made. You were not late. You were not lost. You were just protecting what the world wasn't ready to understand. And now, you're ready to bloom. There are stories that live in the bones of a family, stories that ache even when no one speaks them out loud. Every family carries something unspoken, the sighs between generations, the wounds that were never properly bandaged, the names we whisper with guilt or never speak at all. These are not tales for the careless or the curious. These are not stories for entertainment or leverage. These are scars, and scars, even when healed, should be handled with tenderness. Too often, people carry their family's secrets into rooms that don't deserve to hear them. They tell the pain not to heal it, but to explain themselves. They place their inheritance of hurt on display in hopes that someone will offer them understanding. But understanding is not always the gift you receive. Sometimes it is judgment in disguise. Sometimes it is silence. Sometimes it is a new wound added to the old. There is a difference between sharing and exposing, a difference between healing and bleeding on everything you touch. When you speak of your family's flaws too freely, you might think you are being transparent. But transparency without discernment becomes a betrayal, not just of them, but of yourself. Because whether you like it or not, their story is part of your foundation. And to dishonor them completely is to chip away at your own roots. This does not mean you must carry shame. It does not mean you must pretend that everything was fine when it was not. It means you must become wise with your words. The stories that shaped you deserve reverence, even the hard ones, because they birthed you, because they taught you, because they became your teachers in silence, whether you asked for them or not. When we are young, we often judge our parents and our elders through the lens of what we believe they should have known. We say, they should have loved better, they should have done more, they should have healed themselves before raising us. And sometimes we are right, but rightness does not always require speaking. Sometimes it requires reflection. Sometimes it requires forgiveness without applause. The older you get, the more you realize. Most people were doing the best they could with what they had, carrying pain that was never named, repeating cycles they did not understand. You begin to see that the people who raised you were once children too. They had their own bruises, their own traumas, their own unanswered questions. They were shaped by hands they never got to confront. So they made mistakes, so they stumbled, so they left you with things to untangle. But that does not mean their lives are stories for public consumption. Speak your truth, but do not use your family's brokenness as proof of your worth. You do not need to drag their shadows into the spotlight to earn your light. You can rise without ruining them. You can heal without humiliating them. You can tell your story in a way that honors your survival and their humanity. There are ways to speak powerfully without naming names. There are ways to release pain without reopening wounds. There are ways to break generational curses without turning your ancestors into enemies. You must learn the language of grace, the kind that tells the truth without causing unnecessary harm. And if you must speak, choose your audience carefully. Choose spaces that hold you, not exploit you. Some ears are not built for sacred stories. Some people will take what you shared and use it to redefine you. They will not hear the pain in your voice. They will only hear the drama in your details. And suddenly, what was a private wound becomes a public weapon. Silence is not always suppression. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is dignity. Sometimes it is strength in its purest form. You do not owe the world every page of your history. You do not have to unwrap your family's fragile truths to people who only want to read them like fiction. There is honor in being the one who chooses peace over pettiness. There is power in becoming the person who transforms pain into wisdom, not gossip. You can be the one who turns the story around, not by shouting it, but by rewriting the ending with your life. Because the real healing comes not from telling everyone what they did to you, but from showing the world what it could not take from you. There is a quiet kind of power that lives in a heart that gives without needing anything in return. A power not rooted in applause, not seeking recognition, not waiting to be praised, but simply giving because the giving itself is sacred. In a world where people so often trade kindness for credit, where every good deed becomes a performance for an invisible crowd, the person who gives quietly becomes rare, becomes necessary, becomes holy. But make no mistake, there is a war inside many of us between our desire to love and our need to be seen. We want to be generous, yes, but we also want someone to notice. We want someone to say, "Look at you, you're so kind, so selfless, so good." We want validation to follow virtue like a shadow, and when it doesn't come, resentment creeps in like a thief. The mind whispers, "After all I've done, they couldn't even say thank you." And suddenly, our kindness starts to rot from the inside. That is what happens when kindness comes with expectation, when we give to get, when we help just to hold the moral high ground. It may look like love, but it is manipulation in disguise. It's not the act that defines your heart, it's the intention behind it. Are you giving because it overflows from your spirit, or are you giving because you're hoping someone will fill your empty space with approval? Kindness is not a transaction. It's not a favor you tally, waiting for the day it's returned. It is a flow, a rhythm, a way of being that asks for nothing because it is already whole. True kindness is selfless, not performative. It does not keep score. It does not brag. It does not make you a martyr. It simply is a light that flickers in dark corners without shouting, "Look, I am the flame." Some people wear their good deeds like armor. They want the world to see how generous they are, how noble, how self-sacrificing. They talk about what they gave, what they endured, what they did for others, as if it makes them more worthy of love. But worth is not built through sacrifice that screams. It is built through presence that serves. The loudest love is not always the truest. Sometimes the loudest love is looking to be repaid. The quiet love, the invisible kindness, that is the kind that changes lives without needing to be remembered. You see it in the person who gives their last dollar and never mentions it again. You see it in the mother who stays up nights with her child and doesn't ask for a medal. You see it in the friend who listens to your silence and doesn't ask for your secrets. You see it in the stranger who holds the door and keeps walking. These are the ones who understand that love does not need to shout to be real. But kindness without expectation doesn't mean allowing yourself to be used. It doesn't mean saying yes to every request or giving until you are empty. It means you give from a place of choice, not compulsion. It means your giving is empowered, not forced. You help because you want to, not because you feel you have to. That is the difference between kindness and people-pleasing. One comes from abundance, the other comes from fear. And when your kindness is clean, untainted by need or manipulation, it becomes something that no one can take from you, even if they don't appreciate it, even if they never say thank you, even if they walk away, because the act was never about them. It was about you choosing to be who you are, no matter what the world does in return. The reward for that kind of kindness isn't applause. It's peace. It's the deep exhale that comes from knowing you were true to your spirit. It's the quiet joy that lives in your chest when you remember you showed up with love when you didn't have to. That kind of giving can't be bought, it can't be copied, it can't be stolen, because it is rooted in something eternal. And yes, sometimes you will feel unseen, sometimes you will give and it will feel like no one noticed, like your love went into a void, but I promise you, it didn't. Love never disappears. It may not echo where you hoped, but it plants itself somewhere, in someone, in something, and one day it blooms in a way you may never witness, but it blooms. Do not let the ungrateful change your nature. Do not let the silence around your kindness convince you it was wasted. There is no wasted love. There is no wasted warmth. There is no wasted effort when it comes from a pure place. Even if no one sees the act, the universe does. Even if no one claps for you, your soul does. And that is enough. Be generous, but don't keep a ledger. Be loving, but don't expect trophies. Do the right thing because it is the right thing, not because someone is watching. There is a kind of strength in doing good and walking away quietly. There is a rare, unwavering power in being kind, not for glory, but because your heart simply won't allow you to be anything else. And that, my friend, is a legacy louder than words, a kindness that doesn't beg for attention, a love that does not wait for return, a light that shines even when no one sees it, simply because it was made to shine. There is something sacred about the things we have not yet done. There is power in the potential that still breathes beneath the surface, untouched by interference, unspoiled by opinion. Every vision, every plan, every step you are about to take holds a kind of quiet electricity that can either grow stronger in silence or be scattered by noise. Not every seed needs sunlight in its first hour. Not every intention needs a witness. Some things bloom better in the dark. There is a wisdom in moving in silence, not out of fear, but out of understanding. Not every room deserves to know what you're building. Not every person deserves to sit at the table where you sketch the next chapter of your life. When you speak of your plans too soon, you invite a committee into a conversation that was meant to be between you and your calling. And committees, well, they love to vote. They love to weigh in. They love to suggest and criticize and plant doubt in soil that was growing just fine. There's a part of us, though, that longs to share. We're human. We want to be seen. We want people to know that something is coming, something big, something brave, something beautiful. We want to say, look at me, I'm on my way. But the truth is, sharing your next move too early doesn't make it more real. It makes it more vulnerable. And not all vulnerability is sacred. Some of it is sabotage, dressed up in the language of transparency. You must learn to recognize the impulse to announce as a form of insecurity. The need to be validated before the move is even made. The craving to have someone cheer for an outcome you haven't reached yet. And when that applause doesn't come, or worse, when you receive silence or skepticism, it rattles you. It makes you question what you were so sure of just moments before. That's the danger of premature revelation. You exchange your confidence for approval, and when the approval doesn't arrive, your confidence walks away too. There is no shame in keeping quiet. There is no weakness in holding your vision close to your chest like a prayer not yet spoken. You owe no one a preview of your progress. You are not a performer on a stage. You are not required to leak your purpose before it's ready to stand in the light. The caterpillar does not announce the wings before it earns them. It disappears. It retreats. It does its deepest work where no one can see. And when it returns transformed, not explained. Some people speak of their goals endlessly because speaking gives them the illusion of doing. They talk of the book they will write, the business they will build, the path they will take, but the speaking becomes a substitute for the becoming. They get high off the idea instead of humbled by the work. And slowly, the move that should have been made gets buried beneath the weight of too many words. You are not here to impress people with your planning. You are here to live out your purpose with your presence. Let the work speak. Let the fruit fall. Let the results be the answer to every question they didn't think to ask. Because when you move in silence, your progress becomes undeniable. Not because you declared it, but because it shows. There will be people who try to pull the map from your hands. Where are you going? They'll ask. What's next? And you'll feel the tug, the desire to explain, to prove, to validate your journey with details and declarations. But you don't owe them the directions to your destiny. If they're meant to walk with you, they'll see the signs. If they're meant to witness your rise, they'll feel the shift. You don't have to narrate every step for the ones who are aligned. They'll understand your silence. They'll respect the mystery. Not everyone delays your blessing out of malice. Sometimes they simply can't carry the weight of your vision. Sometimes their disbelief becomes a fog you start breathing in, and soon enough, you're gasping for air in a dream that once gave you life. You must learn to protect what breathes inside you, not with walls of fear, but with boundaries of wisdom. The next move doesn't need to be hidden from everyone, but it must be hidden from those who haven't earned the right to speak into it. Timing is everything, and so is trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, trust that when the moment is right, the right people will know, the right doors will open, the right eyes will see. Until then, be the architect of your own silence. Be the builder who smiles while laying bricks, knowing the blueprint doesn't need an audience. It just needs your faith. Don't rush to share what still needs room to grow. Don't invite hands into the garden before the roots are deep enough to survive their footsteps. Tend to your vision with patience. Water it with discipline. Shade it with humility. Because when it's ready, it won't just arrive, it will erupt. It will walk into rooms and speak for itself. And the same mouths that once questioned you will be the ones repeating your name. There is freedom in silence. There is clarity in solitude. There is strength in withholding. Do not fear being underestimated in the quiet seasons. Some of the most powerful revolutions begin with no sound at all. There are some aches that are meant to be carried in silence until they find a safe place to rest. Some wounds aren't meant to be explained to everyone who asks. Just because someone is listening doesn't mean they're qualified to hear. Not every ear is sacred. Not every shoulder is safe. Not every hand that reaches for your sorrow comes with the intention to soothe it. Some only want to hold your pain to study it. Some want to wear it like a story that's not theirs to tell. We live in a world that encourages confession, a world that rewards vulnerability when it's shared in just the right tone, with just the right filter, at just the right time. But there is a difference between healing and exposing, between expressing and unraveling, between freedom and foolishness. Your pain is not a currency to trade for sympathy. It is not a piece of entertainment to toss into conversation so others can feel like they know you. People say, speak your truth. And yes, truth is powerful, but so is silence, so is discretion, so is the ability to protect what still stings too much to say aloud. Speaking your pain before it's healed is like touching a bruise too soon. It only deepens. It only reminds you that you haven't let it breathe yet. And if you speak it in the wrong place, it doesn't get lighter. It gets heavier with shame, judgment, and misunderstanding. Not everyone deserves the story of how you broke. Not everyone can hold the weight of your darkness without making it about their discomfort. You'll notice how quickly people change the subject when your truth doesn't fit into neat little boxes. You'll see how some shrink when your sadness grows too big for polite conversation. You'll learn that what they called checking in was really just curiosity disguised as care. And when they disappear after hearing your most tender confessions, you'll realize they were never meant to know in the first place. Pain is not weakness, but sharing it too freely can weaken you. Not because the pain itself is wrong, but because the audience isn't ready or willing to honor it. And when your vulnerability is met with silence or skepticism or spiritual bypassing, it feels like being wounded all over again. You start to question not just your story, but your right to tell it. You start to believe that maybe the silence you broke was safer than the noise you entered. So you learn. You learn how to recognize the eyes that listen without trying to fix you. You learn how to spot the spirits who don't need every detail to understand the depth. You learn how to ask, is this person a safe space, or are they simply available? Because availability is not the same as trust. Presence is not the same as care. And just because someone is near doesn't mean they've earned the right to witness your most sacred ache. You have every right to be selective with your suffering. You are not cold for withholding. You are not distant for being discerning. You are wise. You are protecting the most human parts of yourself from being chewed up by people who were never taught how to hold things gently. This is not about bitterness. This is about boundaries. This is about knowing that your soul is not a diary to be read by anyone who happens to ask the right question. There are parts of you still learning how to breathe. They deserve peace, not performance. Some of your stories need silence, solitude, sacredness, not stage lights. And when you begin to treat your pain with reverence, the world starts to respond differently too. You stop bleeding in places that never offered a bandage. You stop lowering your voice just to make others comfortable with your truth. You stop expecting rescue from people who never learned how to stay. Let your pain teach you, not just about what hurt you, but about where to place your healing. Let it show you which voices echo safety and which ones simply make noise. Let it guide you into conversations that don't require you to explain every tear, every tremble, every chapter. And when you find those places, those rare, quiet rooms where your sorrow is met with gentleness, let your story open slowly, like a flower that only blooms in soft hands. You are not obligated to relive your suffering for the sake of someone else's curiosity. You do not owe transparency to those who haven't earned your trust. You are allowed to carry your pain quietly until the time is right, until the space is true, until the ears are kind. Because your healing is not a spectacle, it is a sacred ritual. It belongs to you and only to those who will protect it like their own. You are not made of glass, you are made of grace. And grace doesn't spill itself for every thirsty hand. Hold your peace like a mother holds her child, gently but fiercely. Speak when it heals. Stay silent when it protects. Because what you withhold can be more powerful than everything you reveal.